That squirrel can water ski. Anyway, now it's time for this week's special investigation segment with Kent. What have you got for us this week?
Good evening, Ray. Well, tonight something very, very special and exclusive. Earlier this week I was able to carry out the first interview of its kind in the world. Brand new technology allowed us to contact the departed souls of the three worst mass murderers of the 20th century, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin and Pol Pot.
Fascinating. You actually interviewed them.
Yes, and I took the opportunity to ask why they did the awful things they did, so as to finally ascertain the motivations behind their appalling atrocities. Their answer proved to be very, very surprising indeed.
Let's take a look.
Well, let's start with Pol Pot. Tell us about your motivations. What were you trying to achieve?
Well, look, my goal was to establish a system of government based on agrarian collectivism. I believed that the best way to self-sufficiency was to force people into the countryside to be put to work in government labour projects and collectivised farms, organised into cooperatives. It was to be an agrarian communist society with no individual possession, albeit not exactly Marxist, in that I strongly believed that the rural peasant farmers were the true proletariat.
Mr. Stalin, did you have similar ideals?
Well, yes and no. My main aim was the liberation of the workers. I wanted to end individual possession and capitalist exploitation once and for all, and I was confident that collectivized agriculture would immediately increase the food supply for urban populations and for the processing industry, and lead to greater agricultural exports. I also regarded collectivism as a solution to the crisis of agricultural distribution that had been developing in my country since around 1927.
Why is it then that when we look back, we see that something like 5% of people did amass wealth and ruled the other 95%? Why did you not, in fact, create an egalitarian state?
Well, look, if I'd had more time, things would have worked out for everyone. My people had complete confidence in me.
Yes, but is that perhaps because you took control of all the media and because you used to have people who disagreed with you killed?
Well, everything I did was for the greater good of the people. I did similar things, actually. I eliminated anyone suspected of free market activities, and went as far as taking away the children of people who had, in my view, been tainted with capitalism.
Pol Pot, history records you as killing anywhere between 800,000 and 2 million of your own people. Who were they? Why did you kill them?
I ordered purges of people who were going to be of no benefit to the new Cambodia, and these included former government officials, educated people, those with ties to the West, as well as Buddhists, Muslims and Christians. My estimates were that only 1 to 2 million people were needed to build the new agrarian utopia, and my stated policy towards the others was, quote, "To keep you is no benefit, to destroy you is no loss," end quote.
Let's bring in Mr. Hitler now. Some historians have recorded you as basing your policies upon fierce nationalism in both populist and collectivist terms, national protectionism, Italian fascism, totalitarianism, racism, and of course militarism. Why then did you use the word socialist in the name of your party? Were you in some sense also a Marxist?
I was certainly not. I clearly stated in Mein Kampf that the communist movement served Jewish interests, and I fought against Jewish Bolshevism throughout my entire life.
Okay, what would you say you were working towards?
Well, after Germany's defeat in World War I developed an extreme nationalism. The Jews were attempting to take over my country by diluting German and Nordic Aryan racial and cultural purity. I wanted them out. Germany was for Germans. I instigated policies that required Germans to show that there was no Jewish blood in their family for 3 generations. If I could only get rid of the Jews, I knew that Germany's post-war economic prospects would improve, as the Jews were responsible for everything that was wrong in my country at that time.
Why did you invade neighbouring nations?
Poland were the aggressors. Your history books have it all wrong. And I soon discovered that defending Germany from other attacks from Jews was going to be a massive undertaking, and that I had to succeed even if it meant destroying all of Europe in order to build it back up without the insidious Jewish influence.
Right. Whereas Stalin tended to let his own people starve, Pol Pot is remembered as killing his own people. How much of that did you do yourself, and why?
The only Germans I had killed were German Jews, homosexuals, cripples, gypsies, and people who disagreed with me, such as communists and social democrats. And that was part of my eugenics program intended to build up my nation and retain cultural purity. I admired Mussolini for his similar efforts, not to mention, of course, the ancient Spartans.
Okay, mass murderers of the 20th century, thank you for your time.
Wow!
And there you have it. Each leader finally owning up to the fact that they did their evil acts in the name of atheism.
Look, congratulations on getting them to come out and say on the record that everything they did was done in the name of atheism.
Well, as you saw, I just let the 3 leaders speak, and they just wouldn't shut up about how atheism was the key motive behind all of their actions.
This is going to be a major embarrassment to all the atheists out there. We just heard Hitler saying that the gas chambers were built and used in the name of atheism.
That's what he said.
Pol Pot just confessed to killing upwards of 2 million people in the name of atheism. And Stalin let his people starve to death because of something or other that he did in the name of atheism. What was it again?
Oh, look, I don't know. I wasn't really listening. Since I already knew that every answer was going to be something about their passionate devotion to atheism, I just kind of switched off as soon as they started talking.
Yeah, well, never mind the details. The overall message was that Hitler, Stalin, and Pol Pot carried out their evil acts in the name of atheism.
Yes, all the killing was done in the name of atheism.
Millions of people killed in the name of
They
atheism.
did their terrible deeds in the name of atheism.
It's because they didn't believe in God.
All because of atheism.
That's what atheism leads
Pol
to.
Pot was an atheist.
Yeah, and look what he did.
All in the name of atheism.
Brutal killings.
Atheistic regimes.
They had an atheistic agenda.
If they believed in God, it would never have happened.
Everything
Millions
they
of
did was
people
done
in the name of atheism.
Now, why don't you tell us what you've got planned for next week's special investigation segment?
Well, next week I'll be presenting an interview I carried out with the ghosts of some Old Testament heroes, Joshua, Samson, Moses, Gideon and David, in which we discuss the question of whether merciless, brutal and violent extermination of entire nations and cultures is morally okay.
What an interesting question. Gosh, I wonder if we'll ever come up with a clear answer to such a tricky...
Well, we did. It turns out that slaughtering horrendous numbers of innocent people is morally fine, as long as your motivation for doing so is racial, ethnic and religious prejudice that God happens to agree with.
Of course. I look forward to seeing that. And that's all from us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. From all of us here, good night.